Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason. If you're not familiar with us, we love our chickens here. We absolutely adore our chickens, and one thing that we do is try to feed them really well. You try to take care of them, so we give them a high quality feed. Well, unfortunately, that high quality feed is also has a high quality price tag, right? And many people, including ourselves, kind of feel the weight of these increasing feed costs and how much grains are cost us. And I've heard comments talking about how expensive the feed is that I promote, which is New Country Organics, which by the way, we're not affiliated with. We just happen to love their stinking feed. And so people obviously are concerned about trying to make sure they feed their chickens well, but not take a whole lot of money out of their pocket. These girls are really important to us, aren't you, Tootie? Tootie's important. Sweetness, you're important. Sweetie Belle, yeah. All these girls are important. Even that one right there who does not lay an egg. Even this one right here who might as well not lay eggs. They're all important to us. So because they are important to us and they're members of our family, because hey, we don't have children, so we have children in there. And new children coming very soon. We try to feed them well. So it's important to us to grow food that they will eat as well. Food that maybe we'll eat, but at the same time, maybe they'll eat more of. So we're gonna go through a list of things you can grow in your backyard to help relieve that cost of your feed, but also at the same time, will feed your chickens well. And you give your chickens great feed, they're happier, healthier, and they lay better eggs, more eggs, healthier eggs as well. Okay, the first thing I'll mention is Swiss chard, because our chickens adore it, and we like it too, but not a whole lot of people do, but you can easily grow it anywhere. Obviously we got this growing in a green stalk, so it's in a container, but you can easily grow this anywhere. This orange variety handles the heat pretty well, but at the same time, it can grow in cool weather too. It's frost hardy and everything else. So whatever we don't eat, which by the way, we don't eat a ton of it, but we do eat it. Whatever we don't eat, the chickens can eat. The Swiss chard is super nutritious, high in many vitamins and minerals, and chickens lay amazingly wonderful and delicious eggs anyways, but they lay even better eggs if you give them a good amount of Swiss chard the day before. The eggs that are laid the next day are even better. So then I'll pick it all off, then I'll just kind of tear it up. You don't have to do that, by the way. I do it just to kind of make it easier to spread around and lets them choke it down easier without having to beat it on the ground too much. But at the same time, you can just throw it in there. But as you can see, these girls love it. Bunch of kids. Get excited. Yep. Drop the piece, we're gonna lose our minds. Huh. Oh. Yeah, kids. Just throw it out here. As you can see, they absolutely adore it. Don't you, Naomi? Yeah. Now, while that little bit's not gonna make like a massive difference in your feed bill, it is proof that hey, you can grow stuff like that. If you want to grow a bunch of it, we'll say, then you can make a difference in your feed. Now, let's also preface this by saying that's not all chickens need. People saying chickens are vegetarian, that's not really great for them necessarily. Okay, chickens do need protein. They will eat animal protein, by the way. Now, I'm not advocating feeding them chicken or any kind of meat. I'm just saying, but good for them to forage, get forage and bugs and worms. But also, they do need a bit of grain. Okay, let's be honest. It's okay if they don't get grain, but it don't hurt them necessarily to get grain. But they do need protein. Okay. A balanced diet is the best diet. This is just something that's going to help offset some of your cost by growing this feed. I'm not advocating to not feed them, not allow them to get any kind of protein. Now, obviously, there's many more things you can grow. For instance, well, I was going to say beets. We plant a lot of beets, and we eat the beets, by the way. So I don't know if chickens will eat the actual beets or not. I would assume that if they do eat beets, that maybe they should be cooked and allowed to be softer. Now they might eat that, a cooked softer beet. They might eat these beet tops. They really love. Like all of this right here is nothing but beets. Okay, all this is beets. Now I gotta thin these, okay, because there's too many beets coming up. Beets have to be thinned because they're cluster seeds. You get multiple plants coming up out of one seed, and when you do thin them, you can take those those bits to the chickens, the ones that you're pulling out. Also, when you harvest your beets, the beet tops they adore. By the way, beets and Swiss chard are in the same family, so the beet tops and the Swiss chard will look very similar to each other, and chickens absolutely love those beet tops. Now, so that's what happens when we harvest our beets, the tops go to the chickens. Other things like that are like radishes. Now, radishes are a cool weather crop, here at least here in Ohio for sure. You don't want to plant that in the middle of summer, but they grow really fast, and if you happen to have radishes that get too hot, the chickens don't seem to mind the radishes themselves after they get a little spicy. Okay, so radishes, if you're not aware, when radishes get hot, they get a little spicier, they get a little more bite to them, and they're not as pleasant to eat, at least necessarily for me, but chickens do adore them, and the radish tops they absolutely love as well. So you can plant radishes anytime probably and have a crop there for them, and radishes grow really fast. So the radishes are a good one to plant. Other things like lettuce. Okay, lettuce, my chickens typically are about lettuce that has gotten bitter, because it gets bitter as it gets hot. So it's a cool weather crop. Again, be aware. There is some lettuce that we're growing that's called an all year round lettuce. Have no idea if it gets bitter or not. We're still testing it. But chickens do adore lettuce. Now, is it beneficial? Maybe not as much, because there isn't as much nutrients in it, but they do eat it. Really, any greens at all, they do love. Mustard, collard, they'll eat them all. Kale, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But also cabbage. Cabbage is an interesting one. Now remember, you have to make sure that if you're going to plant these things, that you make sure you're planting them in season, because some varieties of these greens don't like to be hot at all. Some can handle some heat, some can't. So make sure you're planting in season. But cabbage in general, cabbage produces a large head of cabbage, and chickens will love it. They adore it. Many of these seeds, the seeds are not very expensive. You're gonna be out the time and the effort to grow them, but if expense is what matters to you, then the seeds are far cheaper than the feed. Okay, you gotta remember that the seed is cheaper than the feed, and especially in things like cabbage and kale, lettuces, spinach, all those things, because you get a lot of seeds in a pack for a minimal price. Another interesting one is turnips, especially what I'm going to tell you is it's called hackeri. The only place I've seen it necessarily, which I haven't looked everywhere by the way, but johnnyseeds.com does have it's an F1, so it's a hybrid, but it's not a GMO, so don't worry about that. It's called hackeri turnips. They're salad turnips. They're like small white globes. Chickens like the turnips and the greens. They loved it, and they're fast growing as well. Super fast growing. You can produce a bunch of them really quickly in small space. Very good. Chickens love it. They adore it. That's a good one. Another one is called corn salad, or mache, M-A-C-H-E. It is a cool weather crop. Okay, I don't believe there's any way you can grow that in the heat, but it's very productive in cool weather. Very tasty, and it's a rare one, something maybe you won't want to eat. I'm not sure I've ate it actually. We've grown it and chickens have ate it, but chickens love it. These chickens only ate it because they got in the bed and destroyed it. That's the reason we didn't eat it and they did. But they love it. Again, these are things that are different, that are nutritious, that add value to your eggs, and should decrease the amount in some manner of feed you're having to buy. Another thing that is going to be different than greens. Okay, so I know so far I've only mentioned greens, and there are other things too from the garden. By the way, we're going to do another video for that, about things you should and shouldn't feed your chickens out of your garden. But another thing that you can plant for feed, just in general for feed, is winter squash. And now the reason I'm mentioning that is because I know a lot of people do plant squashes and winter squashes, but I'm going to say winter squash in general because you can produce a large amount of squash off of individual plants. They got a vine a little bit a lot of times, but they store. In other words, you can have an abundance of winter squashes that you can cure and store away. And chickens love them in the wintertime. They love them anytime, by the way, but they work super well in the wintertime. Like if it gets cold, really cold, and maybe stressfully cold for the chickens, you can bake that squash, bring it out, and chickens will adore it. Now, you don't want to give it to them scalding hot, but it can be really warm, and they're going to love it. It's going to provide nutrients and energy and a warm food for them and they adore it. It's an absolute wonderful thing to give your chickens in the wintertime that you've grown, and it's plentiful. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of nourishment in the squash that they absolutely will need. Okay, they love it, they adore it. Any kind of winter squash or pumpkin is great to bake and give to your chickens in the wintertime. Any kind of sweet peas as well. Now again, they don't typically grow well in the summer heat, but they'll grow in the spring and in the fall really well. So any kind of sweet peas, they'll eat the peas, they'll eat the hull, they'll eat the plant. They love it. They absolutely love eating any kind of sweet peas in their plant. It's a great legume that you can grow that actually helps your soil. It helps chickens. It's a wonderful thing to grow, and the chickens will love to eat. And I'll show you this kale, because we grow ragged jack kale. Okay, typically we have other kales we grow. We don't eat them as much. Ragged jack we do adore, and it's a form of red Russian kale. Okay, right here, but it's not the only kind of it's a different kind of red Russian kale. But we do grow it. We love it, and as you can see, this time of year, it starts getting bites on it, and it starts getting too much insect pressure. But also, a well-established plant can go into the heat. If you don't have a well-established plant, it's probably going to grow really slow, if at all. So these are well-established plants that are coming into the heat, and we're pretty much done with it. We're pretty much done with this kale. So the chickens are going to get it all here eventually, but I'm going to show you how much they love this kale right now. More kale for the kiddos. There you go. Yeah. You like that, don't you, girlies? Yeah, there you go. Gracie loves the kale. So much can Heidi. Yeah. Good girls. Alright, so neighbors are starting to mow, so I gotta get this done. But again, there's kale. There's other things you can plant as well, like forage crops. You can go, I'm saying Johnny's Seeds because this is where I've seen it at. There's probably other places. We're not huge Johnny Seeds shoppers, but we do like their stuff. So like things you can go to Johnny Seeds and buy that I've seen that are other than garden vegetables. So we're gonna say forages. You can go to their site, find a section that says farm seed, and you can find all kinds of forage crops. Like if you wanted to plant a spot in your yard of just clover or just some yellow field peas, which by the way, yellow field peas are really good to add protein, and there's yellow field peas inside of that are like cracked inside of this New Country Organics feed that we use that are wonderful. So there's all kinds of things like that are forage crops, cover crops at Johnny's Seeds that you can buy if you want to plant a patch of something in your yard or off to the side or whatever that you can then harvest or let your chickens on and forage for. Another great way to give them good forage, good food, real food that's nutritious and good for them, and probably save a little money in your pocket as well. Also, another one I'm going to advocate for real fast is dandelion. Dandelion greens they adore. You can find them naturally. Instead of spraying Roundup in your yard and getting rid of them, you could, which is terrible for everybody, you could actually just harvest the dandelion greens, give them to your chickens, and they adore it. They love it. We used to have a chicken that adored it so much that the next day she obviously after having dandelion greens, she laid an obviously bigger egg. There's no doubt about it. She's since gone on because she was old, but she adored dandelion greens, and which they all do, by the way. But it was an obvious difference in her and her eggs the next day after she's had dandelion greens. And you can find those seeds typically under an herb. I think Johnny Seeds has them under herbs. Other places had them under greens. So dandelion greens are a very good one to plant. And if you don't want to plant them all through your yard, obviously, okay, you can plant patches of them. Plant a little bed of them. I'm going to plant a bed full of Swiss chard, honestly. Just because if I don't need it, the chickens will. I've got the seeds already. Might as well. Seeds are a few dollars. You can grow a whole lot of greens for a few dollars. Okay, that's something you got to remember, is that feed is $20 to $40 a bag. Okay, I'm saying that because high end to low end, but it's not going to be cheaper than 20 bucks. Not for a decent feed, anyways. And it's can be expensive. So if you're trying to feed them without breaking the bank and give them nourishment without breaking the bank, this is how you do it. Plant things for them. Don't kill the weeds in your yard. Okay. Now, if your front yard, like us, okay, front yard is different. I still don't spray weed killer in the front yard, but you want to keep it maybe a little more manicured, looking nice. Backyard, hey, have at it. All kinds of clover right here. For the bees get clover, the chickens get clover. Everybody benefits, right? Because we're benefiting from that product. The animals and the wildlife are benefiting from it too. There's a lot of things you can grow for your animals that will provide nourishment, better eggs, and better animals, and cheaper feed. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We do appreciate it. My name is Jason. This is Art of Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.